So what were some of the initial projects or ideas that you worked on that you tried to establish with MED4HOPE? Because you obviously have a mission, and what was that mission?
Yeah, the mission is to provide skills and tools to other doctors who do this. And we first created a course in the Austria Ärztekammer Medical Association.
Okay. So let's take step by step, because I think anybody who might be listening to that's also from a nonprofit organization says, listen, I do the same thing. I want to compare notes with what you did. What you identified, and we've talked about this, is you've identified the fact that there is no international standard. There's no national standard for how to best treat.
Best practice.
No best practices.
Yeah.
So that's what you committed to. You got together with a bunch of different other volunteer doctors and said, why don't we collectively get together, do knowledge sharing, and collect knowledge and create a standard. Yeah. Now, I was involved in the beginning of this organization as well, and I used my wealth of knowledge from project management background. And for all of those of you who are certified, we project managers suffered under different but similar conditions where most project managers began working on projects without having any formal training or without having any best practices or standard. And our international standard is called the Guide to the PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge. And I remember one of my suggestions is, well, why don't you use the same model, to do the same thing for what you're doing? And you can call it, it won't even change that much. All you have to do is change one letter. Because if you call it the SMBOK, which stands for Street Medicine Body of Knowledge, you basically have something that's internationally understandable. Yeah. There's a reference point from it, and it might be a good starting point,
Yeah, we do. We're working on that.
So that's important. It's funny because Rico, Nelly, and I were talking about standards just before this podcast, and we were talking about how difficult and how time-consuming that is. You had the idea, is this Street Medicine Body of Knowledge, does it exist? Is it finished?
It is not finished yet.
It's a work in progress.
It's over 200 pages, and I can't decide what to take. And all the time I think I should write to this specialist and that specialist and to this interview and ask, because there is such a lot of knowledge, but it's so hard to collect. I really contacted a lot of people
who are all willing.
Yeah, but it's hard to collect. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think we have to organize ourselves. All this street medicine. There is now in like 2 weeks a congress in London. And
what's it called?
It's called, I think, Street Medicine Symposium. And we have one which is Armut und Gesundheit in Germany, which is once a year. And we connect in Austria several times a year. But these are all groups who are not connected to each other again.
So there's lots of initiatives out there.
Yeah.
All of these initiatives have all the same problems.
Yeah.
All these initiatives are solving the problems in their own way.
Yeah.
A lot of these solutions are similar to one another, but we still don't have a common language and a common process. So this is important for developing standards. You said, well, listen, we acknowledge this problem. We're not going to solve it right off the bat. So what you decided to do, let's start small.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start in Vienna. Let's start by creating collaboration in Vienna, right?
Yeah, and collecting knowledge and teaching. We have already certification.
So let's take a step by step. So one of the things you acknowledge is that the standard takes time.
Yeah.
Another thing that the standard takes is a standard is not something that can rarely be written by one person. It needs to be a collective process.
Yeah.
Okay, which just means it's time consuming and you're in the process. Yeah. And I think you said something the other day which I thought was very, very beautiful. You said one of the things when you have a vision of doing something grand, one of the things that often comes to you as an epiphany is the fact that if you want to get great things done, you have to let things go and let people into your lives.
Yeah.
Right? I think you
Don't do it all on your own.
Yeah. And you're a master of this. I know a lot about you. There's some things that you're not so good at, which is like structure and organization.
Yeah.
And
I'm a hunter, not a gatherer.
But you're sensational. You're a great networker, right?
Yeah.